Picture this. You've got a bicycle flipped completely upside down. You grab the pedal and you just start cranking it, spinning that rear wheel as absolutely fast as humanly possible. Now, what happens if you take that chaotic, high-speed blur of a wheel and suddenly slam on the brakes? It goes from practically flying to a dead stop in a fraction of a second, right? It's sudden, it's violent, and honestly, it's a perfect real-world example of what we call angular acceleration. So, by the time we wrap up this explainer, you're going to know exactly what angular acceleration actually is, the formula that drives it, and how to spot it in everyday spins and stops. No heavy jargon, just clear physics you can visualize.
All right, section 1, spinning up, slowing down.
Before we even touch a whiteboard, let's just think about how things move. Whenever a spinning object changes its speed, that's angular acceleration in action. Think about an ice skater pulling her arms in to spin like a top, or a massive hard drive spinning down when you power off a server. Their spin, which we call angular velocity, is changing. That rate of change, that is angular acceleration. We use the Greek letter alpha for it. And the rule of thumb here is super simple. If the spin is speeding up, alpha is positive. If it's slowing down, alpha is negative. Moving into section 2, the angular acceleration formula.
So, how do we actually calculate this? Well, here's our main equation. Alpha equals the change in angular velocity, that's delta omega, divided by the change in time, delta t. We measure this whole thing in radians per second squared. And you know what's really cool about this? It's exactly like the linear acceleration you're already used to, just wrapped around a circle. It's literally just how much your rotation speeds up or slows down every single second.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Back to our upside-down bike wheel. Say someone cranks the wheel from a dead stop up to a blinding 250 revolutions per minute, and it takes them exactly 5 seconds. Step 1, we grab our variables. Time is 5 seconds, change in velocity is 250 RPM. Step 2, we've got to convert those RPMs into standard physics units, which are radians per second. If we multiply by 2 pi and divide by 60, that 250 RPM becomes exactly 26.2 radians per second. Step 3, we just plug it in. 26.2 divided by 5 seconds gives us an angular acceleration of a positive 5.24 radians per second squared. But wait a second, let's pause here. We just found a relatively small, positive angular acceleration. Taking 5 whole seconds to spin up is kind of leisurely. But what does a massive negative angular acceleration feel like? Well, think back to our hook, slamming the brakes on that violently spinning wheel. Rotationally speaking, that is practically identical to crashing a speeding car straight into a brick wall. The velocity change is massive, and the time it takes to happen is incredibly short. Let's check out section 3, calculating wheel stop time. Let's actually look at the math of that sudden violent braking. We're going to rearrange our formula to solve for time. Let's say you squeeze those brakes hard, creating an intense negative acceleration of negative 87.3 radians per second squared. Our starting velocity is that 26.2 radians per second we had going, and our final is 0. The wheel is dead stopped. So we solve for delta t by dividing delta omega by alpha. We divide our change in velocity, which is negative 26.2, by our massive negative 87.3 acceleration. And what do we get? 0.300 seconds, barely a blink. In literally 0.3 of a second, all that angular velocity is wiped out entirely. That right there shows you exactly how a large negative acceleration battles against initial velocity to force a sudden stop. Okay, quick retention check to see if we're all on the same page. Picture a plate of leftovers rotating in your microwave. If that glass plate suddenly slows down to a stop, does your food experience tangential acceleration, centripetal acceleration, or both? The answer is absolutely both. Here's why. Centripetal acceleration is constantly pulling inward, changing the direction of the food so it actually travels in a circle instead of just flying off into the microwave door. But tangential acceleration, that's what changes the actual speed. It's the braking force. You absolutely have to have both forces for an object to slow down while staying in its circular path. And that brings us to section 4, linking linear and angular. That microwave example perfectly sets up our next big idea. We're going to connect the circular motion we've been talking about to the straight line linear motion you probably already know. Students mess this up all the time, so let's be super clear. Tangential acceleration, a sub t, changes how fast you're going. It runs straight along the tangent edge of the circle. Centripetal acceleration, a sub c, only changes your direction, pointing straight toward the center. They are totally perpendicular, completely independent forces.
So, how do we bridge the gap between straight-line tangential acceleration and circular angular spin? With this little formula. Tangential acceleration equals the radius, r, times the angular acceleration, alpha. It means they're directly proportional. Think of a drag race. The faster the drive wheels spin up rotationally, the faster the car launches forward linearly. The whole thing is just scaled by the size of the wheel.
Let's see this in action in Section 5, the motorcycle wheel example. Let's grab a heavy-duty, real-world scenario to show why this connection is a game-changer for engineers. Picture a high-performance motorcycle launching off the line. It goes from 0 to 30 meters per second in a blazing 4.20 seconds. The rear wheel has a radius of 0.320 meters. Our job? Figure out the angular acceleration. Basically, how violently do those wheels need to spin up to generate that massive forward thrust?
All right, it's a quick two-step process. First, let's find that linear, straight-line acceleration. Change in velocity over time gives us 30 divided by 4.20, which is a linear acceleration of 7.14 meters per second squared. For step 2, we grab our bridge formula, we rearrange it to solve for alpha, taking that 7.14 and dividing it by the wheel's radius of 0.320 meters. And boom, there it is, 22.3 radians per second squared. That's the angular acceleration those wheels need. Notice how radians act as this invisible dimensionless unit here? They are the perfect mathematical translator between linear movement and rotational movement. All right, let's wrap this up. Section 6, Summary of Rotational Quantities. We've covered a ton of ground, so I want to leave you with a master summary. Think of this table as your ultimate physics cheat sheet. Look at the incredible symmetry here. Every single linear concept has an exact rotational twin. Position becomes angle theta, velocity becomes angular velocity omega, and tangential acceleration becomes angular acceleration alpha. Want to switch between them? Just divide the linear value by the radius r. It's an absolutely beautiful logical system. So I'll leave you with a quick real-world challenge. The next time you're sitting in a spinning office chair, push off, spin around, and then stop yourself by dropping your foot to the floor. While you're braking, try to mentally estimate your angular velocity and calculate your angular acceleration. Can you picture the graph in your head? Give it a shot. Because physics isn't just trapped in textbooks. It's happening every time you spin, turn, or hit the brakes. Keep looking closely at the world around you, and we'll see you in the